Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm going to do a in-depth walkthrough of Apollo here. It's going to be kind of like other walkthroughs you've seen before. It's just going to be free form, and we'll just get through the instrument and show you as much as possible. As you see here, there are 5 categories, and you'll notice on our website there are in-depth tutorials on each of these. There's also a shorter overview video if you're interested, so feel free to check those out. We'll open up the Swells folder here. There are 2 folders that you'll see. You have your chords and notes and your single notes. The chords and notes are mainly just patches that include notes. And you'll notice that there are different subcategories. These are just meant to basically get you to what you're looking for a little bit faster. You have your basic up here, and you have your acoustic king. That's kind of just your acoustic guitar that we sampled. You have electric guitar, and going through here you have just a bunch of different varieties. And let's go to something real cool. I've always really liked. Let's go to this one. All right, so kind of just introing the interface to you. You'll notice that we kind of went with a kind of a guitar amp head type design. Here at the top you have your, this is kind of just graphic. The input right there doesn't really do much, but the power and standby you can click, and that'll mute the instrument. You have an EQ, which will be over the entire instrument, and so you can kind of just tweak things as you go. The gain knob affects all of the groups within the patch. It basically raises the volume of all of those, and then the master, as you'll notice here, affects the overall contact patch. Now, the other part of the instrument that's kind of static throughout is right here down the effects area. So, we have these different effects options for you. Your delay, your flanger, your reverb. We have different IRs that we have. Let's just listen to a couple of those real quick. Well, actually, without the reverb on, you're hearing the effects from the pedal board of the the guitar that we sampled, of the effects chain that we wanted. And really, if you go through all of these, each of them have kind of their own sound. And this one would be a guitar. It looks like we have some really rad kind of delay and just different types of weird fun effects. You can go to chorus here, and sounds really good and lush. And this is all before we have any of the contact effects, which you can add. So you can go here and add delay, maybe a little bit of reverb. So nice and lush. Yeah, so, okay, so the next thing I want to kind of show you, let's turn off delay, is for the swells particularly, we wanted to give composers, producers, songwriters, even people performing live, the ability to kind of trigger different swells. When playing a swell on a guitar, on a real guitar, you pluck the guitar or you strum the chord, and then you use the volume pedal to swell in. That's kind of what you're hearing here, and that's what we basically kind of recreated. So this swell speed knob is essentially your volume pedal. If you go all the way down to 0, you hear the actual strum, and then you can go through here and kind of decide how fast you want to swell stuff in. It is your basic ADSR here, and with the attack knob being renamed to swell speed. If you want, or actually before I kind of get into this part, you'll notice that we have down here your major chords on the left, and you have your minor chords here. Something cool to keep in mind is that you can play an open A major, different places on the guitar. So this right here would be your high iteration. This is your low iteration. And yeah, it's just really cool to kind of just have those different options. Everything is recorded chromatically. So if you're hitting the G, you're hitting a G major. And, same here with the high iteration. And over here on the right is the minor options. So obviously there's a E minor, higher iteration, A minor high, A minor low. And also, okay, so aside from recording the chords, we also chromatically sampled with that particular swell sound individual notes. And of course, if you were to go to 0, and yeah, it just kind of allows you to create your own, you know, phrasing and or kind of do more of a solo type performance without the chords. And you'll notice here we do have, you know, basically your basic LFO. Turn that on, starts to modulate. You can choose to modulate either the volume or the pan. And it is tempo synced by default, and this frequency knob basically working in 16ths. So at 1, it's going to be modulating in 16ths. Kind of slow it down. If you want, you can turn off tempo sync, and now you kind of have more of a free range knob, and you can basically just find the exact thing that you're looking for. And we'll just kind of load a couple different little waveforms here. It's a rectangle. The width over here. There we go. That sounds really cool. You can have a lot of fun there. It kind of just gives you a lot of different options. Now, going back, let's say to chords. Let's just trigger it. Let's turn this off. Now, kind of the last thing I want to point out about this is you have this little info icon that you see here. This icon brings up the mapping, this mapping image, which basically just in case you know, forget or you just kind of want to be reminded, check out this little info icon, and there it is. There's the mapping that we have. So you see the chords here, and then you know, obviously clicking on notes, you're gonna have your notes down there, and clicking anywhere on the image brings it right back to the GUI, the main interface. So yeah, so that's basically kind of the chords and notes part. Just kind of load a couple things in here. There's just so many sounds. Again, you know, there's all these categories. If you go, you know, abstract, it kind of gets kind of weird. Space laser. Super cool sounds. But yeah, go through all those, and you know, you'll find what you're looking for. We have another category here, which is just single notes, and these are just kind of patches that don't include chords. Let's load hooked here. Just load a couple of these. These have a little bit of a smaller range, and one of these, though, Rise, does have a little bit of a bigger range. Super cool. All right, well, that's pretty much everything to kind of talk about with the phrases. Let's check out pads. So pads is really cool. I think that the pads has the potential to just really help people who maybe weren't too into sound design. It kind of simplifies the whole process. You basically have two different pad engines. You can you know, mix and match each one. You can pan. You can tune them. Let's just kind of trigger this default patch. and I've played that in some of the other tutorials, but yeah, it just sounds really great. You can go in here and you can solo these. Now you're just hearing that sound. You can solo this guy. You can add some modulation. If you want, you can go in here and actually tweak that. Kind of add a little bit of a longer release. And yeah, so, you know, going through here, you know, it's pretty straightforward. This is turning on the modulation. This is, you know, turning on, making sure your envelope is turned on. And you'll notice here when you're clicking on the edit button, you're going to actually kind of get the full kind of controls that we had over on the phrases. This should seem familiar to you. Okay, so that's kind of really fast intro to the two different controls you have. Oh, I should mention that clicking on this text will allow and change the what this knob controls. So when pan is selected, this knob controls pan. When tune, obviously tune. Now here's the fun part: loading different pads. Let's go here and load Awake. See, even right there, now we kind of have like a totally different kind of color, totally different texture. Gotta add a little bit of this. If you want to, you know, kind of basically, you'll notice that these little arrows kind of appeared, and that's because now you can cycle through sounds. Let's turn this down a little bit. Let's just solo that for now. Just kind of makes it really easy to just kind of really go through all of these different, you know, let's check out Beehive. Let's say you have different kind of controls. If you let's say we added a little bit of modulation. So now I want to cycle through and see if this setting sounds really cool with another pad. That's where you just kind of click these arrows and you can cycle through. And okay, let's just kind of go back. I think you kind of get the idea. I like Glimmer. Let's do a little lighthouse here. Just really quickly and really easily, you're able to kind of create just something very unique, something that, you know, you're kind of, you know, something original and really didn't take much effort. I'm constantly kind of just clicking through and finding new pad combinations, and it's really, really, really fun. Let's maybe take this guy down. So now you kind of created a little bit more depth. I guess you can get kind of crazy and tune that all the way up an octave. Again, you know, basically the potential for creating different sounds is endless, especially when you start throwing in different effects here. Let's add a little bit of delay. Maybe some reverb. I really like this Galaxy Vox. Let's turn that on. Yeah, just really, really fun. Let's boost a little bit of the lows, maybe take the treble out. Actually, this is a really good time to point out that the mod wheel controls a low-pass filter. So when all the way down, you can kind of do really cool sweeps. And because it's the mod, you can, in your DAW, you know, basically just kind of create fun different patterns. Or you can kind of, if you're doing like a swell or some kind of riser. It's a really kind of useful tool there. Now you'll notice that we have this preset folder here. And this is basically kind of mirrors the folder structure in here. But these are all preset patches that we created. Let's load a couple of these so you can hear them. A lot of different options. Some of them are a little different, maybe. You kind of just really will get an idea of kind of really how powerful this pad engine is. These pad patches. I mean, you can go in through here and start to, you know, tweak yourself. It just kind of gives you some different starting points. Let's just try this guy. Cycle through here. It's really cool. Oops. Silent creature. Sounds really cool down here. It's a tear. Gonna go through a couple more of these. Starburst sounds cool. Let's check out Heaven. Anyways, you get the idea. I can probably go through these for a long time. Don't want to take up too much time. But yeah, we also have a user folder, so you can create your own presets and just save them into this folder and have access to it straight in within Contact. Now let's move on. Let's check out the Ambient Designer. And I'm sure you've heard it said other places, kind of in different videos that we've already done. The Ambient Designer is essentially our approach to creating vibe. A lot of times, you know, you have these kind of, you spend time creating these ambient beds that, you know, don't necessarily have much, you know, musical, you know, like it's not to a tempo. It's not necessarily, you know, the cue hasn't started, your song hasn't started, or it's the bridge and it's kind of free form. But you kind of want this guitar-based vibe, or you want to feel something, you know, kind of positive or whatever. That's kind of what this will do. Basically, you'll see there are 6 different engines or groups, and each of these have their own samples. I'll just play a couple here. You can mix all this, turn it all down, trigger this guy right here next to it. Now I'm triggering 2 samples. Really quickly, just yeah, you got this really nice kind of ambient bed. Obviously, you have different sounds here. Slides, ambient loops, and just to point out, all these, you click on the tab above and you have all these groups you can load. It's really, really fun once you kind of start getting through it. Kind of can hear some really cool sounds. Now, just to kind of intro to how you actually use this, you have these black keys mapped. And this you will click on to create and set the overall key of the Ambient Designer. So here it is in C. Let's go to... Everything's in C, and you move over to D. and so on and so forth. Just basically click this and set the key, and then you can start kind of the whole building process. And the way that it works, let's say building-wise, we have this kind of feature, and you'll see this little switch called latch. Turning it on allows you to trigger a sample. So now I struck the sample on my keyboard. It's automatically looping. I don't have to actually hold it down. And I can go ahead and click any other sample that I want. Clicked one over here. Like, oh, that sounds really cool. I can go over here to ambient loops. That doesn't sound good. Simply hit the key again and it disengages the loop. I'm going to go here and add maybe a couple more of these. There we go. Now I want to kind of show you the back end when you actually click on this. Turn this down just a little bit. Overall, you can just really quickly tweak the volume. It's really nice to have that option there. Let's say I want to get a little bit more in depth. Let's click the edit button. Now you'll see kind of this whole mixer page, and each sample is mapped to each of these channels. So in this particular group, we're on the green group, which is the slides. I can see that right now I'm triggering C and I'm triggering D. Also, just to kind of point that out with the lights, whenever a group is currently playing back, the light will illuminate and kind of help you to, figure out exactly what's playing. But here I can go ahead and mix, pan that to the left, pan this to the right. I can add effects if I want. I can go over here and I can decide I want to trigger C#. This is also another really cool feature. I'll show you right here. Right above each of these channels, you'll see this reverse button. So if I want to basically trigger the sample in reverse, simply click that on. Oops, I'm going to disengage that. Just simply again by hitting it. So I hit D#. Let's click reverse and now go for it. So let's turn these down. I want these kind of delay sounds to come through. You can start to hear those coming through now. Maybe you want to add a little bit actual delay here to this group. So really quickly, really easily, you kind of have that. Now, the reason each of these have their own volume faders here is so that you can, even further kind of mix everything that you want. Let's trigger some reverse sounds now. I like that. All right, so right there you see, like, we kind of have this bed, this kind of ambient sound. And from here you can kind of just start to play maybe a piano piece or whatever, any kind of music that you want to start, building on. You'll notice that right here we have these different effects. You have your Transient Master. These are global to all groups. Compression, limiter. Let's turn the limiter on. And turn it up a little bit. I guess I could do that here too, but just have a really, really cool sound. Now, okay, how are we going to actually get this into your DAW? How do you get this now into your song? Let's disengage latch. There's a couple different ways. You can go in here and actually map in the piano roll what keys you want triggered. I've done that multiple times. It kind of helps to have a little bit more control over when something is triggered. But let's say you're really just looking for that ambient designer, that ambient bed. I created all that in latch mode, and instead of having to try and remember everything that I had triggered, all you have to do is go here to C7, trigger C7, and you'll realize that Apollo has been basically remembering every single thing that you've been doing while in latch mode. So all you have to do then at that point is hold down C7 or draw in C7 in your piano roll, and there you go. Your ambient designer is right there, and you can, you know, basically move on from that point. I think the idea was just to really allow you to, you know, be able to create creatively, if that makes any sense, and not really having to, you know, let's say, oh, I'm going to test out this sound. Oh, that sounds cool. No, I don't like it. You know, you have the option now to easily engage or disengage sounds and mix, and, you know, there are tons and tons of different groups. Let's trigger some of this. These are bows. So the violin bows on the guitar. We'll kind of just run through different groups right now. And you'll notice we have kind of these major sounds, and you have your air minor sounds. This one probably sounds really cool reversed. Oh yeah. It's amazing how reversing something just gives it so much more character. Here, let me go back before I trigger the next group. You have your bow sounds, you know, amp buzz, if you want to kind of get a little crazy there. These are non-tonal, so you can kind of just, or they act as non-tonal sounds, so you can kind of just add those in and, you know, add color. Let's see here. We have turntable effects. Kind of add a little bit of that vinyl sound. Sometimes that sounds really cool if you trigger. You know, you can kind of go in there and mix it a little bit better. Sustainer, again, I kind of triggered these before. It's really, really cool. Those are probably some of my favorite samples. You have all these different ambient loops. And again, just like with pads, I can easily get lost in here. But definitely go through these, and you know, there's tons of sounds to explore. There's literally millions of possibilities, millions of different ambient pads that you can create just with this right here. And also, kind of as I kind of close out this particular patch, you'll notice that you can mute and solo each group. And if you want, we did create surround mixing capabilities. You can send each group independently to a specific speaker, which is really cool. You can kind of get that exact vibe that you want, kind of this, you know, you can make it as dense as possible. And just like in the swells, we have this other icon. Really quickly, I'll show you what that does. It's kind of just another reminder, kind of like this little kind of help thing. You have the mapping here, and kind of shows you how to use the instrument. Start by picking your key, and then going through latch mode, how to use latch mode, and again, kind of reinforcing the ease of the full mix key, just triggering C7. And it does mention the quick start guide. I'll just kind of point that out. Now you have your Apollo manual and your quick start guide right here, just for easy reference. Anyways, I think that's everything with the Ambient Designer. Yeah, that is everything. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's go to Phrase Builder. Now, the Phrase Builder is kind of this unique approach to, I guess, creating your own performances. A problem with loops is that, you know, loops, you kind of tend to be stuck to the performance in the loop, and you know, you kind of shy away from using that sometimes. So sometimes you want something a little bit more original, but you kind of still want the idea that a loop kind of brings. I think loops can definitely, you know, spark a lot of creativity. You'll notice there are these different groups here. Kind of trigger these real fast. This group. They each kind of have their own sound. And as I play through this group, you'll notice that, you know, if you play them together, you kind of create your own pattern, and you essentially create your own performance. Everything is basically will sync automatically to your host tempo, so you don't have to really worry about the original tempo. But if you do want to, I'll actually point this out right now. You have your patch title, and then you have the original BPM that the performance was originally recorded at, and then you also have the key, so that you know that when you're kind of tuning, you can, you'll know exactly where you're at. Let's go back down here. So anyways, you'll notice that right here we have, this kind of switching MIDI select type thing. If you look right here at this tab, you'll notice it change when I'm triggering a different group. That's because each of these has can be triggered independently. Each of these, you can add your own effects. Let's add some delay. Let's add some reverb. A little bit less reverb. Now let's go over here to this guy. Let's add, a different type of reverb. Triggering these together now. I just create something really kind of unique and different. You can pan these. You can have one on the left. You can have this guy coming on the right. It's really, really cool. And then, of course, you can mix these with the fader right there. You have your global effects. If you trigger this, any effects that you add from that point on will be added globally to all groups. And you'll notice that we have kind of a bunch of different patches here. Each of these have their own kind of genre. I'll just pull one in real quick because I think I'm going a little long. Let's just kind of... kind of just, again, just create something. If you do your own pattern, you're really easily, just with these different chords in this one group, you're able to, create that original type performance. Going through all these, there are just a whole bunch of, I'll just do a couple more, just for the sake of... there's a phrase builder. And just to kind of close it out, here is the instruments category. These are multi-sampled instruments. We have your electric guitar. We sampled 2 different guitars, up to 3 round robins and 5 velocity layers. You have your electric bass, acoustic guitar. We have harmonics. Harmonics sound really cool, especially if you kind of throw a little bit of delay on there. And delay makes everything sound cool. Each of these kind of have their clean version. And then they have these kind of preset patches, so you can kind of just plug and play. Play the bass a little bit. Acoustic guitar, and we have these dry options so that you can add your own effects or kind of take this through your own. Everyone has their own type of plugins that they like, so these are kind of just giving you access to different type samples. Let's load the sitar. Obviously holding the sustain pedal. You got a little bit of delay. And there you go. I mean, you can go through all these and test all these out and find kind of something that'll work for you. But that's Apollo. again, thank you so much for watching. There are further, if you want more in-depth tutorials, just check out the rest of our website. We have plenty of videos there, which will walk you through everything in a more concise format. Thank you so much, and have a great day.